And you can look at me the whole time.
Okay.
It's just like a conversation.
Okay. My name is Mary Ann Lawson. I'm a retired school teacher, having taught 40 years, and 28 of those were taught here in Lubbock. I was born here in Lubbock, and I am 73. I love telling my age, and I'm good with that. Grew up here in Lubbock, grew up in the flats, and in 1950, the family moved further east, and we lived on East 27th Street, down from Dunbar, and we moved there because the school had been built. Ordinarily, I would have been going to the one on Dates, which was a Dunbar Junior Senior High School. Graduated in '64. I am a Dunbar graduate. I go often to the all-class reunions. We got one coming up this year. I am a member of the NAACP. I'm the first vice president. I'm enjoying my retirement of 8 years, and pretty much that's it right now. I am a social activist. I love meeting people of different races. I have a diversity of friends. I did attend most of the meetings for the 2040 plan, and I'm glad that they had it in different places. I know all the way back, dated to 1923, where we, and I'm saying we as black people, people of color, being African American or African American descent, only lived in that flats area. We could not live west of Avenue C. My grandmom lived on 16th and Avenue C. I was born in a home, in a house on 16th and Avenue B. And that's all I knew until I was 4 years of age. That's when I moved over. I do know that there have been inequities. There are. I know so. There's a lot of industrial businesses over there. We have very few, and I say we. I'm living here in South Lubbock. I chose to live here. When I go over there, very few eating establishments. They do have a Dollar General. They have Family Dollar, but there's very few places to eat. There's a lot of abandoned buildings. There are a lot of what I would call just shacks. And that began back with the urban renewal. Let me see, when I was in the 7th grade, I heard that my dad and mom had to make a decision to sell the property. So we sold our 3-room house, not 3-bedroom, 3-room house. And it was sad. Then Daddy started renting at that time, and I'm gonna say it, my mom was alcoholic. And she was taking care of us as best as she can, so we lived wherever she was up until the time when I was promoted to the 8th grade, and that's when we went to live with our daddy and never went back with our mom because of the alcoholism. When I look back at that, look where I am now. All I need to do is call the city and say, there is a light out. I'm noticing that we no longer have a street light on. The lady says, and where do you live? She said, we'll get that done within the next few days. I look out there, it's done. I live close to University, 82nd. There's a theater in the area. I don't know how many eating establishments. I feel privileged. I feel very blessed to live where I live. And the reason why I live where I live is because I did become educated. That did increase my income. I was able to live where I'm living. And when I go over to my cousins' homes, I go over to my nieces and my nephews, thanks to the Habitat for Humanity, I'm glad to see some nice homes there. it's not thriving. East Lubbock is not thriving. So that's what I hear people saying. It's not thriving. It's nothing to be proud of. We don't have nice stores. We don't have, we don't have bank. We don't have what they have on the South Lubbock, in South Lubbock, what they have in West Lubbock or Southwest Lubbock. I'm not wanting for anything here. And I'm very thankful for it. Some of the people who I talk to would like to be thankful too. They're deserving of that. So that's what I'm hearing, and we'll continue to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you know, when you mentioned lights being fixed on the street out
Yeah,
here, do you
yeah.
know if that's the same situation?
Oh, it's some places over there. There are not any lights. Because whenever I go over there, because I do go for events and things, it's dark. And I was coming down one street, and I'm saying, these lights are out. And when they were fixing, I'm going to say it, when they were fixing, this just recently, within the last month, were fixing Martin Luther King Drive, down from like East 24th Street all the way to like 30th-some Street. They needed to have put some signs up saying uneven pavement. I said, boy, I don't want to tear my car up. The people some said, well, they supposed to be doing something about that. Had that been another part of the city, that wouldn't have been done like that. Because I've seen them. I've seen them. And every once in a while, I'll slip into my black dialect. I've seen them, rather than them. I've seen them do that. So it's inequities. It's not equal. I do know something. When it comes to the neighborhood associations, I am a member of the East Lubbock Community Alliance. Although I don't live there, they consider me as an honorary member. And I'm very proud of that. Because I do things over there and I have family. I have family over there. And something that they were saying, we need to do something about this. They're constantly talking about it. So with the changes, no, there needs to be changes. Not no with the changes. The changes, some things are being done, a small amount of things are being done. Because I know Sheila Patterson Harris is doing some things. She was able to show us some things we're doing industrially, getting a bigger fence up and something like that. And with Pico. It can be better than that. We're better than that. I believe the city can be better than that. And we haven't heard anything back as of today. I haven't heard anything about them responding to the non-compliance. There are some major problems over there with people having problems with asthma. I've heard COPD. Some are even saying there's a lack of substance that settles on the cars. See, I don't be over there long enough for it to settle on mine. I've heard that. That's scary. They have a right to live where they want to live. Same way as I got a right to live where I want to live. I looked at it. I looked around. I said, well, that house is not for sale there. That was not for sale there, and I wouldn't buy it anyway. And when I went to the real estate company here, I let her know where I wanted to live. I knew exactly where I wanted to live in the area. And I chose well. However, the other people, remember I told you earlier that my classmates bought their homes years ago. Their homes are paid for years ago. That's all that they had over there. When I was growing up, like I had mentioned earlier, we lived in the flats. As time got better, as some people say, they started getting ways for people to move, you know what I'm saying, in terms of places. And there was a lot. I even showed you the picture where there's no other buildings, there's no other houses where we're living. They hadn't developed that area yet. And I'm going to share this. There were outdoor toilets. And I had my fears of those outdoor toilets. I didn't like the smell of them. I didn't like just sitting on them either. Well, we had that when I was a baby, young child, all the way up when we moved over to East 27th Street. That was like, I was in the getting ready to go to the 8th grade. We still had outdoor outhouses. And I'd spend the time since there was dirt on the floor drawing. I love to draw or write or whatever. Didn't have indoor plumbing, not at all. We used a number 3 bathtub. Mom would, tub about this big. The big, they call it a number 3. And then they have a number 1, which is smaller, but number 3, my mother would bathe my sister and me in the same tub. Usually, she'll be first, I'll be first, because both of us, it's not enough room. But she would do that. And when people mention about the Saturday bath, they're not kidding, because usually that's when we would be bathed on Saturday. That was sad. Remember I told you about my classmates? Parents being professional people, we were lower working class, poor family. They had indoor plumbing, because I'd go over to the house and take a bath every once in a while across the street. They started, and I'm saying maybe giving loans for people to buy homes. How many people gonna have cash money? I know Daddy didn't. They paid it out. That even that little 3-room house. Well, then when the urban renewal came in there, they just started selling up property, and the buildings were just left there, and then they just deteriorated. Now over there, I'm bringing up to date. There are people who cannot get home improvement loans. And the houses, they're in ill repair. You can just see them, and it's sad. And now they want to buy up the property over there. That's the thing that people are talking about. And then they building smaller, not as quality homes as some. There's a concern. People are buying it up. I know some that are buying it up, got money. So that's a concern over there now.
So they're concerned.
They're buying it for less. They're buying it for less and they're selling for bigger. Some people even believe, you want to hear this? Whether it's true or not, some people believe, and they say they have seen it once before. It could be just, like you say, just talk. Where Dunbar is now, there might possibly be a boathouse in that area. Because it's beautiful. You look overlooking at that Canyon Lake view, it's beautiful. Lovely. Wonderful places to run. Wonderful places to do a lot of fun things. And they believe, some of the people who said that, they said they're going to be a boardhouse. So they kind of question if they're real about improving the schools. Because if the school fails, what are they going to do with the schools? If it doesn't do better. There are people that's doubtful about it being better. I'm hopeful. I volunteer on some Tuesdays, and I volunteer in the classroom as a guest teacher. I am a qualified volunteer. We had to go through background checks and all of that. And I get a chance to talk with the principal, Gabe, as I call him, and talk with other teachers. And I was able to talk with one teacher because, they paid extra money for teachers to go and teach over there. And then they have very good curriculum that I've seen. And I got a chance to kind of help with some of the data. And one teacher, she's white, and she says, we're doing a lot of new things. I said, yes. And she said, I'm learning the culture. She's white. And it wasn't like I can't learn it. It wasn't like I don't want to be over here. I don't really want to learn it because, she chose to be over there to have a teaching assignment over there. But I could see where there was a concern. Like I told you, I dealt with the culture shock and such. When I started working with Anglo children. Yeah. Okay, I do know you go through acculturation. Your language changes. So when I come back home, I'm using what I've been using throughout the school year. I come home during Christmas and end of the school year. And one says, like an Oreo. I had never heard that word before. That was back in the late 60s, which means you are black on the outside and you white inside. It's an insult. Yeah. And I said, oh, that's what you see? And she said, yeah. I said, well, you do change. You become acculturated. And you don't mean any harm. You don't mean any harm, but you do that. So I would do that when I come home, and then when I go back. And those precious, my white students, that was an all-white town, not being the only black person there, African-American there, but there, like I told you, there were Hispanics. Got to be very good friends with some of them, and especially the students that I had. And then I went through that culture shock. And the students were kind and nice and pleasant and sweet. And the parents were too. Never, ever did anyone insult me, say mean things to me. Never was. However, it was difficult. And as the years went by, I stayed there 4 years, I got more comfortable. But still, it was something about back and forth. Yeah, culture shock. No, I wasn't. I'd heard of it. They were saying, Dunbar now is desegregated now. And people would talk about it. Yes.
What was their take on it?
Some felt good about it, because remember I told you when it was segregated, there was a difference in the quality of learning materials. Remember I told you we only had 5 microscopes, and there was a classroom of about 25 kids, and the uniform being handed down, and the books we got, I never got a brand new book. My book was always used from some student or students over at Lubbock High and Monterey. Yeah. And I heard teachers saying things too. And now, I will share this with you. I was away, and they told me, one of the friends said, Miss So-and-so not here anymore. They got her over in the white schools now. We call them white schools, even though they were desegregated, in the white side of town. That's what was said. I say, really? And those were outstandingly good teachers. I did find out about that. I didn't know that was happening. And I'll tell you something about it I did here, and that was from my teaching assistant that I had for about 12 years. She said, Marianne, let me share something with you. She said, one day, I had to go and take something to my son, and he was at in the white part of town. Went over there, went over there, and he was doing okay. But then again, another one told me she had gone to L.R. Isles. And you remember that was with the busing and desegregation. Well, not necessarily with the busing and stuff, but they had taken the children from on the east side, bussed them over to L.R. Isles, and they were all sitting black in one classroom. And that's supposed to be what? Integration. People would talk about things. I'm going like, oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, even then. And I have a friend that's very dear and precious now who actually says her child did not go to a neighborhood school. Her child is of biracial ethnicity, if you want to call it that, nationality. Well, ethnicity. And she never went to a neighborhood school. She didn't want her going to a neighborhood school because she had heard a lot of things. She wanted a child to be a very bright child. She's bright to start out with, my dear friend. Never went.
How did she avoid that?
She went to the city. She went to Lubbock Independent School District and said, I want her going to this school. She would go to those schools and find out about the PTA and where were the school teachers' kids going, which classroom were they in. Her child was put in those classes. Very bright child, very, very, very intelligent. She has a doctorate degree from down South Texas somewhere. But anyway, that's what she did. She calls me a unicorn, a black unicorn. You know how unicorns, anyway, we say, are mythical beings. They are what they are because, and I'm going to say it, I was able to come from a lower working class, poor family with mom and dad who only got elementary education schooling, and be able to be where I am now. I'm a black unicorn. Yes, Daddy once told a woman who was interviewing him, talking with him, and she said, because he realized I was doing well, and he said she'd come home, and she'd change her clothes out of her school clothes, and she would sit and do her homework. Then she'd go and play. So I didn't realize I was doing that. I just did what I needed to do. I had that belief. I had teachers who believed in me. And I knew what teachers really liked me. I once had a little torn dress. And I can remember Miss Scott, that's her name, Miss Luella Scott. She's a third grade teacher. And she said, it's okay if sometime, your clothes aren't the best, but you know what? You do, it's good. And they were clean, and I had a big pin in it. And she's saying, and that was, I think, to keep the kids from bullying me, because no child ever bullied me when I was around. They didn't. And I said, why'd she say that? Because she was speaking positively about me. She was doing that. And she believed in me, and I knew she loved me. And Mr. Taylor, he was another one. And he became a principal, and he was the one that saw me as being a good student. And he spoke of that, because I didn't realize I was a really good student until high school, I guess. But he would say that about me. And I knew he loved me. I knew he cared for me. And I know it wasn't a thing he wouldn't do. Like he taught us Chinese checkers. Well, he didn't. Yeah, he did teach it to us, because we didn't play games like that at our house. We didn't even play checkers. And I told my grandmom about it. So she went to Woolworth and said, look what I got for you. She'd hear me talk about what I did at school. And there she had that for me. She did that often. My grandmom didn't go to school at all. She had typhoid fever and never really covered well from that. Her daddy, I think, homeschooled her. So people would say that about me, and I knew I could learn. Remember I told you about in high school at Dunbar, they said every A that I made was a C. If I would have gone to Monterey or Lubbock High, it would have been a C. I said, well, I passed that, and I did all right. I said, I'm sorry, my A is not an A. I heard that from teachers. See? So when you hear that, it's sad. Yeah, they talk about the village, but the village educating a child, it was the village. The neighbors across the street, they were very encouraging. They would say good things about me and Daddy and such. Yeah. They cared. It's changing. We have a lot of young parents, what I call kids taking care of other kids, their own kids, and a lot of grandparents have stepped into the role of being the parents. It's changed. And then don't have as many, because I just look and I say, oh, so-and-so passed away, and, well, I remember him. It's changing. So that's a major problem. Yeah, because the village did. Yeah, there were people that would help. Yeah. I believe that had something. When you close a school, it affects the community. They also closed Bozeman. It's another school now. It's a different kind of a campus. But then you look at other schools too. Parkway Drive. Off of Parkway Drive, Parkway Elementary is no longer. They tore it down. It's now a home ministries place where this gentleman bought it from the school district. Yeah. And it used to be a school there. So a lot of the neighborhood schools no longer exist. And a lot of people have moved out of the neighborhood. Quite a number. I didn't go to Tech because Tech had a reputation for being very hard, very, I'm going to use the word, racist towards its students. And I graduated in '64 from Dunbar, almost 54 years ago. And they had said what they were saying. And remember I told you about the A's and being C's. I said, well, I could do that, but I know I could do better than that. I was scared. I was afraid. I wasn't comfortable. I do know about, Miss Cecile Graves, getting her degree from Tech. And I just didn't feel good about it. And when Mr. Roy Roberts, who has a school named after him, Roy Roberts Elementary School, said, Mary, the head of the music department in Langston University is coming to Lubbock. That was in the spring of the year. And he said, I'd like for you to talk with him. And I was a very good student. Remember, I had gone that 1 year of the music camp. I was a good band student, wanted to be a woman, John Philip Sousa, because I didn't know of any female, well-known with march music, and be like Mr. Robert, too. I'm his protege. He was my mentor. And he said, Mary, now, we don't have a scholarship as such, but we will be able to give you 4 years of a loan. It'll be a National Direct or National Defense student loan. Are you interested? Because I know you're a very good band student. I heard you are a good student, because Mr. Robert used to ask every 6 weeks to see our report cards in the band room. He'd take them all up, and he'd look and see what we had made. I was a good student. I was a scholar. Still am a scholar. And that's how I went to Langston University, with them offering that. Because I knew Mom didn't have the money. My daddy was a yard man. He said he was a landscaper. He loved to glorify what he did. And he would call to Langston and say, I don't have the money for this semester for Marianne's tuition. They said, it's okay. Marianne, go on, sign up for your classes, and then get your books. They did that for 4 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it a big school?
As it has grown, it had grown then. We probably had about 300 something in. It was a small school, yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we got all of that going for us. And then the teachers were we had some remember I told you about the Rhodes Scholars and other teachers we had some from Africa, and one of my most favorite teachers was an Anglo woman who taught me piano, and that first year, and she said, well, you've gotten what you need to get for your course of work. I would like to teach you one more semester, and you won't have to pay. So she taught me that semester.
That's awesome.
So I tell you, I've had some beautiful and wonderful experiences, a lot of opportunities, yeah. My dad was in her first grade class. And he said, yeah, I remember Miss Ella Eyes, because, he got a book out about her. Miss Ella Eyes said, yeah. I'd get there early that morning, and I'd get the fire started at 4. He's little first grade, can you imagine this? Little first grade. So he got to the 3rd grade. He could write his name. He could read some, too. And he said, yeah, she was there. They hired her. Yeah, he speaks of her. Billy is what I call my mentor now for the school board. Yeah, she was a school board trustee. Vanita Holmes had 4 different terms as a board member. She's also one of my mentors. And then there is Kathleen Anderson, who's also my mentor. Yeah.
Is Billy Cavell still around?
Yeah, she's around. I saw her at the MLK events, and she's a member of the NAACP. And for the NAACP's banquet coming up on leap year, anyway, she and a woman by the name of Miss Rose Wilson will have a special recognition award named for them. I mean, it's theirs. It's the Billy Cavell. I don't know the name of it just yet, and the Rose Wilson Award. So they will be giving those out, recipients.
That's
for
awesome.
those. Yes.
She's someone I would love to
Oh,
talk
she's
to.
now you're talking about, she's a little bit older than me. She knows what went on. She knows about that flat. She knows. Miss Rose Wilson knows. Billy and her husband were the very first pharmacists, black pharmacists here in Lubbock. It was a thriving neighborhood once upon a time. There is a hospital, still is, Chadman Hospital. Some people don't know about that. It's in the book. Remembering
Named
when.
after Dr. Chapman?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, they call it Chadman Hospital. Yeah.
I didn't even know about
And
that.
then there's another. Then there was a Dr. Loving. He was another doctor. Yeah, it's in the book. We've had some setbacks. We need to get, like they say, get up and get going again. Yeah, there's been some setbacks.
What are some of those setbacks?
The setbacks is the loss of the property, people moving out, the schools being closed. When you no longer have a school, you no longer have what used to be. What used to be. And I didn't specifically say anything, define it. You no longer have what used to be. That's where I'm going to leave it. Yeah. Which was better. That's someone that's very dear to me. That's my grandmother. We call her Mamaw. And that's her daughter, who would be my aunt. My mother's sister is here, and that's my grandmom, who played a very important role in my life. Okay.
And did they both live in Lubbock?
Yeah, both lived here in Lubbock. They moved here. They came here on a cotton pick, and that's where they would provide farm work. So that's how they ended up in Lubbock. And that was in the 20s.
Okay.
About the middle 20s. I'm going to look here. These are the most recent pictures that I got from my daddy's things. That was the rest of his stuff. He had that special box for that. You know, when he passed, we looked through his things. Very loving, nurturing father. Very caring mama. That was Daddy after the war. The World War II.
Oh, okay.
He had come home. He was very proud of that. Okay, let's see what else is in here.
So was he drafted?
He was drafted, yes.
Okay.
Most African Americans were drafted. Most of us were drafted. And I say us. Let's see. Okay. That's a picture of my mom. She worked for Luby's Cafeteria. She was one of the very first of what you would call a head cook for bakery items, and she specialized in enchiladas.
How old was she there? She looks super young.
Young. I say round about 20 to middle 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am going to show these. This is here in Lubbock. This is the one that's most revealing. That's my brother, oldest brother, who lives in California. And Mom took this picture. She had just bought a camera. Mm-hmm. And she loved taking pictures. My brother is what you would call a photographer enthusiast. And that's us. That's us four. We four are on this picture. Youngest sister who lives here, that's me. That's my oldest sister, of course, older and oldest of the children. And this right behind on this is what Lubbock looked like on East 27th Street. You see no other homes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And my daddy was able to buy a 3-room house, not a 3-bedroom house. That's all he could afford. Mm-hmm. And he was able to get it, from what I know, from what they call Avenger Company. And he bought it for him, and they moved it to the home place. Mm-hmm. So that was they moved in 1950. I was 4 years old.
Wow.
So I'm the one that had the dates in my head. And this is very precious here. That's the brother. Mom made sure that we had pictures by the time we were either 6 months or a year old.
Oh, that's a nice camera. Those look,
yeah.
Honestly, those look like modern pictures.
Okay, and these were taken at Photograph, which is where the African Americans, I'm going to say it, that's where we had a we went to have photographs made. That's the oldest sister. She knows no longer living.
So cute.
That's me. That's me and big and bigger. and my baby sister, and she don't mind being called a baby sister, a youngest sister, she lives here in Lubbock.
Aw, what does she do?
She's now working part-time out at the South Plain Mall, and she's what you call a conductor for the express train on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. She works part-time. She used to work for the employment office. She was a data entry operator.
Aw.
And she knows I'm doing this today.
Oh, good.
Okay. See what else. Okay. I'm just looking because I think these are all. It's me in school. Most of these here are. That's one you can look at. That's my daddy on his 84th birthday. Month after that, he passed away.
Aw.
He died. So we were able to have a birthday party for him.
That's
his
really
very
nice.
first birthday party we ever had for him. Yeah, that's my daddy. And my daddy was a guitarist, rhythm and blues guitarist. I chose to study music, so I used to be a band instructor. Here in Lubbock, I mostly taught young children, gifted and talented. And let's see, that's a picture of me when I was doing my first year of teaching.
How old were you?
Right about 24, 25.
Okay.
Yeah, the usual age. Because I went to school when I was 18. Predominantly, mostly black college called the HBCU, Historical Black College University, Langston University in Oklahoma. Thanks to Mr. Roy Roberts, who was my band and teacher and mentor, I was his protege, helped me to get financial aid to go. At that time, they weren't giving out scholarships to anybody here in Lubbock. However, they did have a National Direct Student Loan, or some people call it, it was a student loan, and I paid it back after I taught for a few years. So thanks to him, I was able to go to Langston.
Nice.
At that time, Tech had only been 3 years into integration. Up until then, blacks could not go to Tech.
What year was that?
So that was when they integrated it, I'll say, in the 60s.
60s.
Very early, probably about 60. About 60. The book shows it, so I can't remember exactly, but it was in the early 60s when they permitted the first students.
And Lucille Graves was the first,
Yes,
correct?
thank you for knowing the history. She was.
I've wanted to do a story on her for a long time.
Yeah, she was very first. And then, believe it or not, the next one to come was Stella Crockett. It's in the book.
Okay.
Stella Crockett.
Still a crack. Okay.
Yeah. I did get a chance to experience sitting beside an African American at Texas Tech, but also to sit with a white boy. Had never ever experienced that. Dunbar, up until 1993, was a high school. Okay, well, when we went to the music camp, thanks to Mr. Roy Roberts, we were able to go. Up until then, we never could go to Texas Tech, even in the band camp. Mr. Robert, having gotten his master's in music, talked with Dean Killian and the rest of the people in the graduate school or within the music department, and said, I have students who would like to go to a music camp. So I was one of the very first to go to the summer music camp, and to sit by, and I'm going to say it, this white boy. I know he was uncomfortable and I was uncomfortable, and I never experienced that. That was an experience for me. So I'm glad I got a chance to experience that at Texas Tech summer camp. Let me tell you something. I'm going to be right up front and I'm going to be what some people would say, I'm going to be transparent. Tech was not ready for me, and I wasn't ready for tech.
What was
Because I had heard a lot of students being failed, and if not failed, not being given grades that they were deserving of. And I was a scholar. I still am a scholar. I was an honor student, and I was afraid and uncomfortable to go to tech. So I went to Langston University, thanks to Mr. Roy Roberts, and I'll share this with you. When I was going to high school at Dunbar, we used to hear this. And some of the African American teachers would even say this. Every A that you make is considered a C here in Lubbock. And I believe that. I believe that because they said that, knowing that I know it's not true. But that's what was said. So I'd make all the A's I could, and B's too. And I said, well, made a C, according to people here in Lubbock who believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going back to when you did the band camp.
Yeah.
Did the tension, for lack of a better word, did it like ease up over time? Was it just like a first time thing?
That was a first time thing. So when I graduated from Langston, I did graduate magna cum laude. So I am, like I said, a scholar. I'm bright, intelligent, thanks to teachers who really helped me. I went to the placement office and let them know I want to work. I want to teach in an integrated school. That's what I wanted. That was my want. And I believe it or not, before I even finished up there, when I did my student teaching, at Jackson Junior High School in Oklahoma City. I was only African American in that school. As a teacher, there were no African American children. No. I think they had mentioned one young girl, if she were still attending. I never saw her. And that's when I was teaching band music. And I was comfortable with the band instructor who was my supervising teacher, because when I was going to Langston, we had Rhodes Scholars, white Rhodes Scholars, and a lot of very bright and intelligent African Americans too. I had a music teacher. My piano teacher was white, Miss Marriott, just precious. And that was the first time just really sit side by side with a white woman at my side as I, took my class in piano. And she thought so well of me, and I'm so glad, and I'm very thankful for that, quite appreciative. Said, Mary, you've gotten all of your required piano out of the way. You don't need any more. However, next semester I'd like to teach you, and you will not be paying for that credit. You don't have to pay for those hours.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to her. Yeah. Precious.
That's amazing.
Precious. So that was the beginning of being comfortable with whites, and the Rhodes Scholar who taught us humanities was a white man and was very personable, very kind. So even before I left Langston, it being, what you call a historic black college university, I did get a chance to see what it was like to have a teacher and do well and make the A's or the B's. Yeah, so that was uplifting. All right, so when I came back home, I interviewed, thanks to Mr. Roy Roberts. He knew of a position that was available in Holcomb, Kansas, an all-white town, with the exclusion of migrant Hispanics
Mm-hmm.
and a few who lived there. I mean, I'm thankful to the Board of Education who met with me. They were wheat farmers. I met with me, the superintendent, along with the principal, and the rest of the board members had to wait till they came from the wheat fields. Because here, school had started. I had just been accepted to go, believe it or not, to Texas Tech. And I was going to study music and get a master's in music. Because one of the teachers said, Mary, with you being a woman, because that's what you would call a pioneering field for women, to be band instructors, it might be a little tough. However, if you got a master's, you could teach in a college or even maybe be more employable in a regular school district. So anyway, that was a good thing right there, and I'm glad that I had that experience. 4 years I taught there, and I'm going to share this with you. Each year that I'd come back home, it took me a while to get comfortable with being around a lot of blacks. That was in Holcomb, Kansas, where there were no blacks. Garden City, there were a few. And then I'd come back in the fall or in the summer when I would teach early band. And I taught from 5th grade to 12th grade, all level, band.
Do you have any pictures of
Culture
you?
shock. That was what you call culture shock. I don't know.
Oh.
Culture shock. And I experienced culture shock. And so I was there 4 years. So I got what I wanted, in the placement. But it was done in a different kind of placement. Thanks to Mr. Roy Roberts. He served as one of my references for Lubbock Independent School District. I learned a lot from him. He expected a lot. He was, now see why they named a school after him. I know why they named the school after him. But so when I did that, I came back home, and that's when I told my dad, I want to work with my hands instead of my head. He said, baby, I'll be teaching. I said, I just need some downtime. I mean, it took about 3 years. Now that was tough. Same as if you went to an all black town. You know what I'm saying? I did that for 4 years. So anyway, I realized what I wanted to do, so I moved to Chicago. And that's where I work with mostly black students in a daycare and infant care. That was integrated private school. And then that's when I got a chance to just see what it was like to be in a larger city with people of many nationalities, many ethnicities. But that was an experience. So what did I choose to do? Continue to be with people of other races. And I did take English as a second language. One of my hobbies now is learning Spanish. So I love doing that. And I keep it thorough because I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly looking up words. I do have a special program, but I'm trying to think of the name. I'm hitting the blank. What's the one that's so popular now? I need to pull it out. It's on my computer. Oh,
Is it oh man.
you know them. Anyway, I'm just hitting a blank. Sometimes I hit blanks. That's one of those blank times.
Now I am too. I think it starts with an R.
But anyway, I'm just hitting a blank. That's when I was That's when I was teaching, doing my student teaching. That's the straight hair. Student teaching in Oklahoma City.
You look so young.
Yeah. I was age 22.
Oh,
I would write it
wow.
on the back of some of these. So that's when I was doing that. With the straight hair, I didn't start wearing my hair natural or in an afro until my second year in Holcomb, Kansas, in the all-white school. And I said, how are they going to adjust to my hair? Because there was nobody to fix my hair. You know, it was one lady who was in Garden City 5 miles away, and the thanks to the precious neighbor across the street who was white, she said, I can't do anything with this part of your hair, but I can trim it up for you. And that's when I went with the full afro.
So what was the response? Was there any?
The children said, we love it, we love it. And that's when I was teaching 5th grade band all the way up to high school. They said, we just love it. Precious. And it was, I'll share this with you, I found out, even while I was there that first year, that it was a mostly German descent neighborhood where I lived in the town of Holcomb. And I started noticing the names. I'm not going to say some of the names because that would mention the names of my students, but they were German names. And I'm saying, and loving, very kind, and for the school to take on that, to hire a woman, to hire a black woman, and live, and for me to live in the town. That was major. That was major. That was a milestone in my life, and I'm sure a milestone in their school system. They call them independent school system. I learned a lot. Very loving, very caring people. I will share something with you. When I was there, every year there would be a play. Mm-hmm. And they always had a black face or a black person in negative caricature. And I had a tough time with that. Remember I told you the culture shock I went through, racial shock I went through. And it's not like they were being hostile. It's not like they were being uncaring. They had done that for years. Mm-hmm. Had done that for years. That's a downside. And I'll share this with you. There was a little precious baby girl. She's about 4 years old, and she'd come down to my house and visit with me. And parents knew where she was. That was one of the teachers who would. It was a typing teacher who would let her come down to my house. And she said, Mary, she's 4 years old, precious. 4-year-olds are right up front. We're talking about being in touch with what's going on. She said, Mary, you're not black. I said, oh, I'm not. She said, you're not white. I said, oh, I'm not. I said, what am I? She said, you're black and you're white. I said, well, thank you so very much. But she said, you know what? I don't like the black people. I said, you don't? I'm a black person. She said, yes, but you're good. You're nice. Mm-hmm. So that's how she would see things. Probably something she had heard. Yeah. So when I taught the 3-year-olds, the young ones in Chicago, they were very accepting of me. I mean, no, not just 3-year-old. That year I got there, the board decided for this private school they were going to add 2.5-year-olds, babies. Some of them were barely potty trained. We would help them with that. They would hold my hand. Never did the parents say anything mean, because they accepted me, and I accepted being at that school. Beautiful babies, what I said, beautiful babies. And but usually around about the age of 4, 3, with some 3-year-olds, it depends, but mostly around about 4, they notice differences. And they'll ask questions. When Dr. Beverly Tatum came to Lubbock, I've read her book, she shared how her son experienced color difference. You heard of the word colorism? Mm-hmm. Okay. She's light skinned. His daddy is dark skinned. So with the combination, he's what you call like a cocoa brown, similar to me, or pecan brown. And with her being light like she is, within some black communities, or the black culture, to be lighter was better. And I experienced that in Lubbock Independent School District. Usually, if they had a parade, who would be riding on the float? The lighter kids. We call them brighter kids. Brighter, lighter. Bright mean light. And usually mom or dad or somebody was a professional person. I came from a family where mom and dad only had elementary education. Mom had gone to the 6th grade and they said she was bright, from what I know, and she moved from Madisonville, Texas, and didn't go to school, didn't go to junior high. But I did hear a lot of things about her being bright. Daddy got to the 3rd grade. In this book is mentioned Dr. Dr. Chadman is mentioned in here, and Loving. But the thing is, how would I describe it? I'm going to show it to you. Like I say, you can get this book at the Patterson Library, and I know, but I'm going to share something with you. My friends, they probably have, I'll share this. My friends that I had in school had moms and dad who were professional people, like Dr. Hill on the east side. Mom, both parents were teachers. There were some dentists. Later on, and there were doctors. They were professional people. I'm going to say it, had to fight for my rights to be from a lower working class poor family to do well. And that colorism would definitely show up. Now, I'm going to share something with you with him. His name is Paul He-Man. He looks white, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's black. He's a mulatto. Went to one of the hospitals here in Lubbock, and he got all registered in. They admitted him. His wife shows up, and later on, he's told he has to leave because he's black. He passed for white. Yeah, Paul He-Man, and that story is in there. They speak of that in this book. So the colorism thing usually meant if you were lighter, you were given more opportunities. You were treated more better. Now, I love my color. Mom went through what you call bleaching of her skin, and you'd end up with a light face and a darker neck. They said, you got to do something with your neck. Then they would bleach. Bleaching was in. So I do know if you were lighter, a lot of times the women, if you were lighter, you were more apt to get a boyfriend, more apt to be married. Yeah, I love me. It took me about 3 decades to get in touch with my being, my color, or even if I were darker, I had a right to be, I had a right. So that colorism is something, not just racism, it's colorism. And I grew up with that. And I just learned to just be okay with it. I didn't like it. I said, they're going to choose her to ride on the float because, she's light-skinned and her mama is a teacher.
Do you think that colorism still exists?
Oh, it still exists. It still exists. And Dr. Tatum would talk about that. And she said her son, she was out at Texas Tech. And I'm so glad that Texas Tech brought her in because we needed to hear what she had to say when the conversation about race. So there was she and Dr. Sumner and her were engaging in a dialogue. Mm-hmm. And that's when she told different stories. And in this book it's a lot of stories of the blackness and how it divides us sometimes. Even what we call internalized racism is what they call it, when you don't feel good about yourself because you're black. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you're angry or you're sad or you're depressed. It can affect you. Me, I just started looking up. I'm a phenomenal woman. I'm a beautiful person. I'm a human being. And I happen to be black, and that's okay. I'm a human being. So that's what I do a lot here in Lubbock. I believe in myself as a black woman, my race. And colorism, it still exists. It's around, not as much. And for a while, when it got into the big afros and got into the dark skin and darker skin, then I'm gonna say it, the lighter skinned black actors and actresses had difficulty getting roles because they weren't black enough. No, really. And so some of the lighter skinned black young men or men would say, it's a bad time for me now, man. I'd like to be your color now. So now that color thing is something else. Yeah.
So it kind of comes
I
in,
love her. Yeah, she's dark skinned.
it kind of comes in waves.
It comes
in a
in
sense.
waves and such. It comes in waves and such. Yeah, and I've been around younger children. Okay, there was a special study about black dolls, and it has been replicated and continuously replicated. And even right now, you'll see some of the young African American black girls that'll say, they don't say it, but they'll prefer the light. Yeah, even then. Because I remember back then it would be saying, which doll is pretty? And the black doll was never ever chosen. I mean, those studies that they did. And of which doll is ugly. I mean, that I can remember that in college. You know, you do your psychology, general psychology.
Yeah.
Introduction to psychology. That study being done, and it's been replicated. And even right now, there's still some of that.
What
So
do you
that
think-
says something.
Where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's like so ingrained in our culture that
Racism?
it's borderline genetic, or?
I believe it's racism. I believe it's some of it is when we came here, and I'm saying when we came here from Africa, West Africa, and I'm tracing my roots back, we were thought of as subhuman. No, unhuman. And we felt like that, and that was passed down. But in the 60s, we started hearing black like me. And like I say, I love my nappy hair. This is my natural hair. This is the hair I was born with as a baby. There was a curly, what we call a curly texture, a soft curly texture. And then it grew into kinky. And I'm proud of me. I'm glad to be me. I'm accepting of me. But that's, if you are told that you are less than, and you believe that, then it continues. Yeah. And it had to do with self-concept. Self-concept. And I did take Negro history when I was in Dunbar. But right now, and I got friends that are preciously white, as I'm preciously black, and we're going through it. We meet over at Hebrews sometimes. We're going to start meeting over at Art for Art's Sake, and they're white. And we'll let them know, as Dr. Tatum did, they were born into privilege. It's nothing that they have to do, just be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like when I'm in the presence of police officers, I'm very much aware of my blackness. And I have had no negative times with police where they have discriminated against me. However, when a police car comes behind me and stays too long behind me, I get uncomfortable. And I'm so glad when they go left or they go right. It's a relief. And that's because of the fearfulness. The fearfulness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give you something before you leave about how to do the 411 with police. You know what to do. Where to pick. And it's truth to that. When our black young men, young women need to know it too, are taught what to do when the police stop you. You keep your hands in sight. you have your papers right beside you. So we were taught what to do when police officers arrest us, or if not arrest us, just talk with us. Yeah. So that talk is given. You talk about the talk. That's the talk.
Is that something that's
still
always? Because I know
it has been, and especially even more so if you were born in the South, but also up north, because her sons were reared in like a suburb, mostly whites around her. You know, she makes a good living. She's well to do. She's well to do, and they didn't spend a lot of time with black students or black children. Huh. Oops. Rosetta Stone is the name.
Yes.
And then they got another one too. There's another one, which is yeah, these are daddies. We'll eventually put these in an album. We found these in a box. But anyway, yeah, Rosetta Stone, but that other one has to do with climbing on that, can't think of it, but I don't have them. I got Rosetta Stone. That's what I'm studying. Yeah, I was seeing if Daddy had any with his you know, showing the city. I think that was one of Daddy's white girlfriends. Remember I told you about the colorism? Mom is my color. Oh. So she kind of like, who is that? Who is that? We were talking about colorism. I was explaining to her it still exists. But anyway, yeah. Would you like to hear how my family ended up here on my daddy's side? I told you about the mama's side.
Yeah.
They came for a cotton pick to work in the fields. They did cotton pulling. No, they did cotton picking, pulling, and they also hoed cotton. They were farm workers. Mm-hmm. My daddy and mom would often talk about what happened in Paris, Texas, back in like 1926. My uncle, by marriage, is talking to me now. He would be a griot in Africa because he tells the stories, okay? He mentioned that that would been my great uncle was a sharecropper. That was in 1926, went and talked with the owner of the property that he wanted to find out how soon was he into paying off what he owed. And he was what you call mathematical, educated. And he said, this is the time where I don't have to do this anymore. And the owner said, yes, you do. You owe me such and such. He said, I don't owe you that. Well, something happened. Pretty terrible happened. He shot the owner. Something happened. I don't know if it was a shootout or just what. The KKK found out about it. My mom and my dad, no, let me say it like this, my grandmama and my granddaddy and the rest of the other kids had to leave Paris, Texas. The KK followed them to the Dallas area, someone there, and I'm thankful of that, protected them and helped them leave out of Dallas to come to Lubbock. My daddy was 4 years old. I used to hear Mom and Dad talk about that, but they never ever mentioned exactly what happened. The griot uncle that I have knows. So that's sad to hear that. They tarred him and they feathered him and they drug him through the streets.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible.
And I've read of it in books. I've read of it in newspapers. I've seen it in YouTube. But I didn't know it was to that extent. I felt like they just ran him out of town. But I didn't know that the great uncle fought back. And knowing what I know, that owner possibly most likely was KKK. But even if he weren't, you didn't do that to a white man. Yeah. Took all these years, and I found out about it 3 years ago from the griot uncle who lives here in Lubbock. He knows the stories. Yeah. Yeah.
That's horrible.
I knew about the killing a little bit, but I didn't know about them dragging him through the streets and tarring and feathering him. But anyway, that was mean. That was hateful. That was wrong. That was wrong. And thanks to the dear friends that I have who are white, I don't hold the anger and the animosity. It's more sadness than anything. I'm not angry with them, but I don't like what was done. But right now, I'll tell you those friends, and we get together, and I usually read from Dr. Maya Angelou or something like that, and they share, like I say, they're born into privilege. You're born into privilege. You're born into privilege. Something you don't have to think about. You know, you just, and that's the way it is, and that's racism. And if it's anything, I'll share this with you. I have a saying that I do, and this is it. I allow in my life love, appreciation, clarity, abundance, joy, and hope. So when I run for office as I am doing, for the school board, as I do what I do as a civil rights activist and working with the NAACP, other organizations and such, I wake up with that each day. I am hopeful. I've seen improvement here in Lubbock with integration, with acceptance, with a change. I've seen it, and I continue to believe it's going to get better. And when it comes to the city and what's going on, are you familiar with the 1923
Ordinance?
Mm-hmm. I lived in the flats. I was born in the flats on Avenue B, what they call 16th and Avenue B. That's the reason why we didn't move. It's because of that ordinance. We certainly weren't going to move west. You want to hear something else? When I was little, I was one who was very much into language and hearing words and things and numbers too. Mom saying, if she weren't married in Lubbock, she would have been in the servants' quarters. I thought it was servant quarters. I said, Mama, what's the servant's quarters? She says, it's a place where you go and you live with a white person. But she didn't tell me about the white person. I just felt like it was just a better place than where we were living. And usually it would be a woman and a man, and usually they were married. Now see, that was acceptable. You could do that. And the woman usually would take care of the children, care for the home, domestic work. And the man would usually care for the yard and what else needed to be cared for. So she saw that as being better than living where she was living and putting up with what she was putting up with. And she would say that, I'd like to live in the servants' quarters. Yeah, my mom was an alcoholic, and she struggled with a lot of things. I'll share this. When we went down south to Madisonville, Texas, remember I told you that's where she was born. She moved here when she was about 12 years old with my grandmom and the rest of the other 3 sisters. We did sit in the back of the bus, a Trailways bus, because that's what we knew. She said, we're going to sit back here. And sometimes people would bring up like a bucket in case you got a place and you couldn't go into the bus station and use the restroom unless they had an outhouse. But you could not use the restroom with the white women or the black or the white men. So we sat back there, and what was so sweet, there was this little white girl that was sitting, I guess, right, well, the blacks would sit in the back. We sat in the very back. And she and my sister, oldest sister, looked through a catalog. It's the first time I had seen my sister with a white child, next to a white child. So I told you I've had a lot of positive experiences with whites. A lot of positive, and I love that. So that was good to see that. I had never seen that before. The only whites that came to our home on the east side, that's where we lived off of East 27th Street, down from Dunbar, near Martin Luther King. At that time it was called Quirt, which means a whip, and they changed that name because it had such a derogatory and a hateful past. It had a hateful name because that's what you whipped horses and you whipped slaves with, the quirt, Q-U-I-R-T. But anyway, we lived there, and we lived in that three-room house, and we were proud to have that house. Daddy bought it. And then after the neighborhood started to grow, we moved further east, and the teachers started moving further east, like where Dr. Damon Hill and his family live, and a few others. Big homes, nice homes, beautiful homes. So we got a chance to see the goodness that we could do, that we could be. We could be good. Now I'll share this with you. When I did go to the bus station, and that was in the 50s, early 60s. They did have the water fountains, colored and white. And we did go to what they call colored women when they did start. No, it hadn't changed. Colored women to use the restroom, and the white ladies. And you couldn't go eat in the front of the restaurant. You had to sit in the back. And when they had a place downtown called Coney Island, remember I told you my mom was a cook and an excellent cook for Louis Cafeteria. I had come back home from teaching. And that was in like 1969. And we went to Coney Island. We had ridden a bus down there. You know, this bus here in Lubbock. And Mama said, let's go get us something to eat. Let's get us a burger. And she said, it's right over here, Mary. I got ready to go in the front door. And she said, no, we're going to go to the back. I said, Mama, the laws have changed. We can go to the front. She said, that's what they say. And we could go to the front. It had changed. And we sat in the back. And people used to talk about sitting on a lard can. And you'd have a table. That's what we sat on. And Mom knew, she knew the cooks in there because they were black. But that was sad. My mom was so used to doing that, she didn't know any better. And I went on back there with her. But we could go to the front. Mm-hmm. So there's some sad things. And at the courthouse, the courthouse was known for racist practices. They did have the white ladies' restroom and the colored women restroom and the water fountains. They're not kidding when they say that. They had that too. So I accepted that then. As time changed, I felt even better, and I have hopefulness it's going to get even better. This is kind of tough. We're living at a tough time right now. The last 3 years have been tough. Mm-hmm. They've been tough. And I'm glad I have the self-esteem that I have. I'm glad I have the beautiful, positive outlook that I have. And I'm glad I have my precious Anglo friends, Asian friends, Native American, Indigenous, First Nation friends. I'm glad that I have my Hispanic friend. We even have Hispanic in the family. My sister married a Hispanic man. They're not together anymore, so we do have a biracial. We have biracial within our families. I'm hopeful. I plan to be like that. And I'm glad the schools are better than they used to be in terms of desegregating them. However, there are still some problems. Like with Dunbar, having 5 years failed, made F for 5 years. And I'm so glad that Mike Morath was able to come here to Lubbock. And we could meet him. That shouldn't have been. I have been retired 8 years now from the Lubbock Independent School District. So I didn't know. I am running for school board. District 2, Quadrant 4. And there are some changes I expect to make. I'll be going to the board meeting in the morning. For the last 2 years, I've been attending the board meetings to see what's going on, to hear, to talk with families, to talk with former board members, African American women. We got 3 of them that I know of. And I would be talking more with parents. It can be better. I know it can be better. And I'm going to share this with you. When I was going through school at Dunbar, I'd love to have some pictures. Football uniforms were handed down. We got the one that the other schools had. Books were handed down. I never got a brand new book I see this. I wonder who is that? Because I didn't know him. I wonder who book this. I don't know about that name. Usually it'd be the third year we'd get the books at the, and I'm going to say it, that Monterey, and at that time Lubbock High, Coronado hadn't been built yet. We'd get their books. Here I was. I love and still love science. Took an interest in biology. We'd only have maybe about 3, maybe 5 microscopes. I'd be waiting. Can I see the paramecium? Can I see the amoebas? Wait, I want to see them. We had to wait. So we were not given the best of equipment. Even the band uniform handed down. Old uniforms. And then when I was there with Mr. Roy Roberts, those last 3 years we had brand new uniforms. Football team had and we were good. Not just necessarily good in sports, we were. We had bright students. And for Dunbar to go from being a college preparatory school in the last 5 years to get to the place where they're failing, I questioned that. I questioned that.